You know me, the fighting freak
Pumpken,
and we're at
Utropeia podcast. Anna Cranberry, Chris Moonjump, and Todd Ogredose. Bill, MrYu video. Saker, aka Dimmsdale.
Brian Hambone Hannah. Jimmy Poop and Louie. Jimmy Poop and Louie. Jimmy Poop. Hey, does Mario Kart exist?
Because I'd like to apologize.
Come step up to the plate and meet your match. It ain't no thing. That was easy.
Hello and welcome to the Utropeia podcast. Woo! Formerly the Utropeia podcast. I almost said podcast again, but it's okay.
I thought you were going to say podcasts.
Podcasts are like the Thundercats or like the SWAT cats?
Like SWAT
Podcast's gold plate.
Podcasts. This is our Halloween version of the Utropeia podcast. The podcast where we talk about what do we talk about here? Is it tropes?
Yes.
Okay, that's good. That's good. It's more of a look. If you're here expecting something in-depth and meaningful and something very valuable, then you'll find it, because we like to have fun and we're friends and we talk like you would with your friends about tropes. So if you're looking,
anyone talks about tropes.
And if you want to be soulless and not have fun while you talk about tropes, then
is it like finding solace or just being soulless?
a little bit of both. A little column A, a little column B. We'll call him, see what you did there.
Oh,
there you go.
Bringing it back.
There you go. Bring it back to the lab again. I am your host, Ken, and you can take this podcast, but you can't take me, because I am Taken. That's my joke. That's my joke for this
week.
week.
Are you Liam Neeson?
I have a particular set of skills.
I have a particular set of tropes, and I will list a few references. We'll compare them a little bit. We'll get sidetracked a lot.
I never went back to Star Wars.
Then I'll chop you in the throat. I am getting very sidetracked, but I am Ken Pumpkin, and I'm gonna list off my special guests and co-hosts for this week, and that is, of course, the lovely Anna Cranberry.
Ooh, hello.
Yes. Next. Next, as of course, Saker, aka Dimmsdale. Dimmsdale. Wonderful. Whoever mixed that wonderful opener for us must really like you.
That mysterious, wonderful person.
I hope so.
I don't know who that is, but you should.
Still reserving my judgment.
You gotta meet him. You gotta meet him first. It's good. Greet and meet.
He did submit a marvelous resume. I will give him that.
He did resume.
Cran on the back of the steak and shake menu.
References. Jesus.
You know that.
And Super God. And I said you're hired. Job. Super God and Jesus.
That's good.
Super God. And of course, Super Todd, aka Ogredose.
Hey everyone.
Aw, that was
thanks
adorable.
for listening to us. Hi everyone. I'm gonna Kermit for a minute. Hey everyone.
Oh, wait, Super Todd here. Super the Todd here.
Super the Todd.
Thanks for listening, but I gotta take care of something real quick, so
okay.
I'll be right back.
All right.
Bye, Todd.
There he goes.
Bye, Todd.
Into the darkness.
Todd.
We'll catch up with him later.
Yeah, we'll catch up.
See ya.
It's okay. I understand what he condiment by that.
Wow.
I know the pun bill. Ketchup.
Oh.
Ketchup. Ketchup.
You must heard it before.
Yes.
Oh, my God.
Here we are.
Oh,
I relish the moment.
I said it before you.
Well, next in the barbecue.
Oh.
God damn, I'm good. It's Bill,
That's
MrYu video.
How's it going?
It's Bill.
It's Bill.
We love Bill.
We love Bill.
You should love him too, Bill.
It's for this experimental Bill.
Oh. Good.
It's good.
Oh, good.
everyone just had to take a moment. Take that one in.
Just enjoying it.
And when the moon hits your eye, it has to be because it's Chris Moonjump!
This is all lunacy.
Lunacy! We're in love by daylight.
I do want to push that as Chris's new nickname as Luna C.
Lunacy?
That's like his rap name.
I Lunacy, what you did there.
I could. I mean, we do have some mean streets up there on the moon.
Crater Avenue.
Yeah. Hey, man, when you got to deal with someone stepping on your Nikes with a meteorite at 8,000 miles an hour, it's no joke.
So,
I mean,
Moonsea got the sickest jams.
it's true.
first we gonna
Signal
rock, then
jams.
we gonna roll. Moon's gonna give it to you.
I love that we do a rap song in every episode now. Usually it's Bill, but yeah, it could be anybody.
It could be anybody. It could be Kenny, but no.
Oh.
Redacted. Okay, because we are all good friends here, and we like to talk about tropes, and that's where the ketchup joke usually comes in, because we catch up. That's what it is. Okay, it's like I'm doing the podcast for the first time in a long time, but we meet every week.
It's like you're dissecting it for the first time.
I kind of
Do we
am.
then talk?
Like, oh, that's why we.
That's why we do it.
I get it now.
I'm discovering it for the first time this week. But yeah, we're going to talk about things that we're excited for / bummed out about. Anna, you're very pensive right now. Just you're staring me
I'm gonna
down.
be honest.
What's
I
going
was
on?
trying to work mayonnaise into a condiment.
Okay, well,
I can't even say
you
it.
can't. Why not?
No.
Just leave it where it chipotles.
This makes me so mad. Skip over it. I'm taking too
Okay,
long.
I'll scrimp over it.
No, that's
It's
not
like
a
it's a shrimp, but it's
Tabasco
it's
home.
mispronounced. What did you say to
Tabasco home.
me? Mass go home?
Tabasco home.
I'm so sorry.
Tabasco.
That was Frank's Red Hot Trot. Oh man! Woo!
Is that the mask? Did the mask come in for a second?
No, because nobody stopped me. But to
Oh,
Jim
right.
carry us on to the next segment. What are you excited for / brummed out about?
Me?
Yes.
Oh.
Who else
what
is
was I-
here
what am I-
besides Bill and Chris Moon?
Certainly not Todd, that's for sure.
No, he's exploring the house.
I don't know where I went.
I don't know.
I don't know. What am I don't know.
I don't
have
like
nothing.
things.
I
don't
plugged.
feel emotions.
I have a USB drive here, and I plugged it into a thing that takes USB drives and plugs into a wall. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like an Apple thing. That's what I'm hyped about this week.
Okay, that's good. You gotta start
It's really
somewhere.
About Nick Cage.
I don't know. Oh yeah, I guess I have a Nick Cage themed Halloween party coming
That
up
is
next
awesome.
week. And I helped one of my favorite bands, 2D6, film a music video last weekend.
Go and
It
like
was
and
really fun.
favorite them on their
can't
Facebook
wait
page
to
and go to
visit your house
bandcamp.com.
To see that thing that plugs into the wall.
We're gonna take pics and we're gonna post it up on the face
Can we all
box.
pose with it?
Do you
Yes.
You
no,
know what?
we
I can-
can't. They
I'm gonna
can't
take a
see what
picture
you
of
look
this.
like. Okay.
And I'm gonna
think
at
we have
least
to post
post.
it.
We can put this on the title card.
On this episode. Oh, fine. Yeah, we'll put.
USB adapter.
We'll give it to that fucker who edits these, and he'll put it on the title card.
Great, awesome.
USB to wall adapter.
It's good.
Spooky.
It's the way #3spooky 5 wall.
Spooky. I just want to plug this in and see what it does. All right, I'm sorry. Move on.
Okay, moving on to
Moon.
Bill, MrYu video.
How's it
Hey.
going? All right. What was I excited about? Oh, next week, and I believe Chris is probably gonna share this one with me.
Okay.
Is Bayonetta 2.
Yes.
Also, Fantasy Life for the 3DS. I'm excited for, and just because I did something last week on this, just another thing that's kind of interesting. Apparently, Boomerang, the Cartoon Network spin-off channel, is changing its format from the old Hanna-Barbera library / old Cartoon Network stuff
Yeah.
to being global all-animation youth-targeted network.
What does that mean?
I have no idea. Apparently, they're going to still have the old Hanna-Barbera library, but they're going to try to get animation or shows from other countries to air.
That's kind of cool.
Oh, does that mean they're gonna have the Wakfu?
What was that?
I was gonna say, does that mean they're gonna have the Wakfu on there?
That's a possibility. They'll probably get a lot of French and Japanese cartoons.
I was.
Look, much Code Lyoko again.
We can't because we already died.
Let me
once.
just talk about Thomas Romaine forever.
I was asking if we're gonna get some interesting Russian cartoons, like some of those really cracked out ones.
Maybe?
You know what I'm talking about. I'm not gonna cite my sources, but you know what I mean. You know what I'm saying.
Hey, you.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah, like there's. I think they just announced it, and I think it was Cartoon Network. Let me see here. Oh, Latin America Cartoon Network has already done the switch for Boomerang,
Ooh.
and Australia November 3rd, and then in the US in 2015.
Ah. Good day.
So we'll see. I'm sure we'll mostly have Canada, France, and maybe a few Japanese cartoons. Maybe a couple Korean if there's a few shows that they.
Hope they just show non-stop loops of Achi and Spaceshock. Just non-stop loops. Google it.
No.
Hashtag Achi Spaceshock 2014. Crazy stuff. There, it's from the same. Eat some scrimp while you watch Achi and Spaceshock 2014. It's from the same studio that did Tekkonkincrete. If you remember that studio, really interesting. I think it's called in the manga form. What's in the manga stars? It's called Black and White, I think. I'm not sure. It's a very interesting style, to say the least. It's very distorted. That studio also did the first short in the Gotham Knights animated Batman anthology. Really cool stuff there. But yeah, cool stuff. Just like the moon, because there's not much atmosphere.
It is true.
Because Moonjump.
Truth. The streets are so
Let's
cold.
see.
It's hard out there for a pimp.
Pimping on the moon is, in fact, ain't easy.
It ain't easy.
Is in fact ain't easy.
It ain't heavy, but
Is,
it
in
ain't
fact-
easy.
Yeah.
I do not understand the finer aspects of moon grammar.
Hey, you know what? Don't be planetist. Okay.
An anti-moonite.
Yeah.
Wait, are you calling the moon a planet?
Are you
Right.
saying the moon is not a planet?
No, and I resent you for bringing that up.
I'm
The moon
sorry.
people have a
We
proud
have been
culture.
petitioning.
Yeah.
Lording the planet thing over us.
And, yeah, you guys and your
Yeah, those
atmosphere,
main planets.
Your
your
fucking
skies,
water.
and your potable water, and
Your life,
food
in
sources.
Hey, you have that creepy mask. That's pretty cool.
It's true,
Yeah.
but eventually I do,
general. The moon
terrorize a small child with
is
it.
often
Yeah, okay.
portrayed as a villain in Earth media.
What?
No, in
See,
Majora's Mask.
that's what I'm
Okay,
talking
yeah.
about. There's also the theory that we have Nazis on the backside of us, and that's just
That
not
is
true.
just
It's-
simple propaganda.
Exactly. That's just Moonanites.
Is that Transformers
And-
movie about Nazis? I didn't watch
Yes.
it. Oh, okay, cool.
No, that's exactly
It's called the Dark of the Moon, not even like the dark side or like the other side of the moon.
Well, no, because I'd die for Darkseid.
That's true. We would all die for
Oh, wow.
Darkseid, but not for a manager at a KFC.
Yeah. But in terms of what I'm really excited for, I've been playing a very interesting Kickstarted game here this week that's an alpha called RimWorld,
Ooh.
where you are actually you start off as 3 people who come out of cryogenic pods on crash landing on a planet, and basically your job is to survive and build a colony to eventually build a spaceship to get back off the planet. But you have to deal with things like slavers and tribals and killer squirrels,
Huh.
and yeah, it's very interesting. It's very much like a Dwarf Fortress style game, but with better graphics, which is a good thing.
Oh, cool.
And yeah, it deals with very much the kind of same survival challenges and things, but it's been really good thus far.
That's fun.
Stop the graphics.
Stop all the graphics. Too much.
Mm-hmm.
Much good graphics. Too many good things
Too
to
much.
play. Too much good graphics.
Yeah. Yeah, and then of course there is the fact that I did take a day off work next week for Bayonetta 2.
That's when you know. That's when you can take pride, I think, in your geekdom. When you can like actively take off time from a work or from like other.
It's as significant
from other
as
engagements.
your immediate relative's birthday.
Yeah.
Or dad.
Yes. When you can take off
I
time.
didn't even take the day off for my own birthday, but Bayonetta 2 comes out. Yeah, I'm going to take the day off.
Of course, why not?
Man, the Easter eggs that I've been seeing from that game, I wasn't huge on the first one, but those Easter eggs are awesome. The cute little Nintendo nods.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm.
Well, that's the whole thing. Platinum Games is a company that makes games for their fans.
Yeah.
That's really what they care about. It's just pandering.
Good grades.
And they're great at it. Besides very solid game mechanics.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's what I'm excited.
Yeah.
Anna,
Yes.
did you think of a thing?
I did.
What was it?
Hyrule Warriors.
Hyrule Warriors.
I love going around and smashing stuff like I'm a Dynasty Warriors, but it's like another well-known Zelda franchise characters. Except some that I hate.
Like Lana.
Why is Lana a character?
Lana, because Nintendo looked at it and said, "Not enough anime." Then they put in.
Nintendo did not look at it.
No, you're right. Dynasty. Lubu looked at it personally.
Lubu looked at it.
Lubu, director of Dynasty
Lana's
Warriors.
Lubu.
Lanbu.
Lubu.
Majin
I just
Lubu.
literally said the name Lubu.
You did. It's recorded, and I'm not taking it out.
It is a good equal parts Dynasty Warriors and Zelda. They actually combine a lot of stuff. It's fun. Try it. It's ridiculous.
Go and buy a Wii U and play it.
Go buy a Wii U and share it with all your friends.
Go and shave your head and buy
Don't
a Wii
forget
U.
to enter the codes on Club Nintendo so you can get your free shit.
Don't forget to buy the download pack so you can play as Dark Link.
PSA, they do not put the codes in plain sight anymore.
Nope.
They're on the inside of the actual wrapper
So you have to buy
of
it.
the cover. Well, yes. You
Stop
have to buy
all
it,
the
but it's
downloading.
also hard to get.
Yes.
Stop.
Stop all of the
damn
damn
downloading.
downloading. Purchase your games like a goddamn human, not an animal.
Listening to this podcast, stop that damn
Stop it.
download.
Go out and purchase this from your local redacted.
Can they continue the streaming?
Yeah.
Okay,
we
good.
can continue to stream.
Yeah,
Streaming's
just stop all
fine.
the downloading. Yeah, good.
Just stop all the downloading. It's too much.
Why are you downloading when you
Stop
can
it
buy
all.
it?
Beep boop.
Beep boop computer.
I'm excited about this podcast that we're going to do. I'm very excited for the next segment. But we'll get to that later. I'm gonna
So keep listening.
I'm gonna get a little bit real. I've been having a rough time. Someone tried to steal my identity 2 weeks ago. So like my bank has been shut down for a little bit. It's been a little rough lately, but you know what, doing these podcasts, it's really nice that we have like a steady stream of listeners. I know, I see the numbers. I see you guys listening, watching, waiting.
Thank you, George.
Thanks, George. Thanks, George. And Nate and Chase, who are special guests also on the show.
Hasn't George been on here?
I don't know.
That's a great question.
Can we do that and have the topic be chocolate
Yes.
milk? And it's
Yes, we can.
all right.
No, okay, I'm gonna stop getting real. I'm isolating myself just like a protagonist in a story. Transitions.
Segway.
Yeah, that one didn't go off the
No,
cliff
it
at all.
didn't. I didn't beat a small child on my way to the set of Scrubs.
Or get all that fried
I
chicken.
didn't get all that
That's-
fried chicken. How did Mariah Carey and Nick Cannon and fried chicken happen? I don't remember.
I hope we might have to listen to a
You
previous
might have
episode
to
of the
listen to
Utropia
Utropia Podcast on YouTube.com.
Utropia cod pass.
Listen to this
Utropia cod
Utropia's cock piece. All right, now it's time for tropes. So when I talk about the isolated protagonist, when I talk about someone who is maybe getting separated from the group or on their own, or just in a place where they have to kind of deal with things that they might not anticipate. They're all alone. They're by themselves. What are some situations or scenarios that you guys think of first? I will not single out Bill because he is my good friend. I will single out.
Your bad friend.
My bad friend. And who is it going to be? Is it going to be me? Yes, it is. Okay, it is because Saker put me in an awkward position, and if I have to throw someone under the bus, then I'll do it first.
Oh, nice.
Thanks. Okay, the first thing that I think of is I go for some of like the 1970s slashers first. I guess that's my first foray into the horror genre. And we've talked about Cabin in the Woods, and they touch on all of the different tropes that sort of happen in these horror slasher movies. But there's usually a girl, and she's usually by herself. I usually think of movies like Friday the 13th or Halloween or maybe Scream, I guess. But Friday the 13th, I think, is that first quintessential movie. I almost couldn't even tell you the name of the main character. It's Alice. Okay. And I just know that she's being hunted down. She's out in the middle of the lake at one point. It's a movie where you don't really. It was the first of its kind. It broke a lot of the norms where you think the killer is around the legend of the lake is around this kid who got drowned there. All of the kids are getting picked off like one by one, these counselors, because the campus opened up after a long period of time. It's a spooky lake just out in the middle of nowhere. There's this big prophecy around it. People are getting kind of picked off, and it all boils down to one character, the main protagonist, Alice, and the main squeeze. I think it's Kevin Bacon. I don't know. If it's not Kevin Bacon, I apologize, but I mean, he's in the movie. I have to talk about him. It's a safe bet. There's 6 degrees of delicious fried bacon that you can play with your friends. If you don't know what that is, then Google it on google.com. Give me money for plugging your website that owns everything. But Friday the 13th has a lot of franchises to it. It creates its own lore. If you haven't seen the original Friday the 13th by now, then I'm sorry you had to find out this way, but it's the mom. It's not even Jason Voorhees. So that was just kind of interesting to me that it kind of went in a different direction to it. And then it had the stinger at the end where it was Jason. And then based on that one little teaser, that one little joke, it made a whole franchise. And now we've got a movie monster that nobody wants to see anymore in a hockey mask. So that was my first go-to. I watch a lot of horror movies. I'm sorry. And I'm not sorry at the same time. I'm sorry for what it's done to me, but I'm not sorry because I guess I like them. Question marks?
No, that is a good question.
Why do I do this? I don't know. It's 3 a.m. Time to watch another movie. Okay, so Saker, what do you think of first?
I almost went in the opposite direction with it. I mean, the first thought that I had was Earthbound. There's a scene where you are in this spooky town, and you get trapped in this pit that you can't get out of on your own. And so it's 2 characters, not just one. So the main character and the female character, Paula, are trapped down there. And so they use their psychic powers to call out to another friend who then joins them. But just that idea of being stuck down there in that spooky town. But what it made me think of was the fact that this trope always, especially in things that are meant for younger readers or younger viewers, also kind of evokes the power of friendship trope.
Yes.
And now, we're kind of guiding ourselves away from horror movies at this point. But, when they're alone and they can rely on no one else, somehow they always find their friends, and their friends give them strength and, help them through. So I think there's a lot of crossover with that sort of childlike optimism in a lot of media like that.
It's good to think who the media is designed for too, like horror versus stuff for the kids,
Mm-hmm.
And it's good to kind of like if you're imparting that message versus like the terror side of isolation versus like the crippling loneliness or anything like that, because you want to have a positive message for it, and there's a lot of support out there for kids who are able to watch this show. I don't know. Am I just kind of bullshitting right now? I don't know.
I felt like you were going to bring up like a suicide hotline. There's a lot of support out there.
There is.
For you kids.
You can go to tumble.depression.com and you can just do gymnastics and you can feel better about yourself.
Tumble Dutch.
Exercise is a good way to
tumbling is very good. It goes into most of your acrobatic skills. That's
level up quickly.
You gotta really skill your character up. If you're a rogue.
Hey, if video games have taught me anything, rolling around on the ground is usually the fastest.
You gotta go fast. That happens.
Exactly.
Bless you.
Why my friends are ashamed to walk with me anyway nowadays. All I do is roll the entire time. Well, yelling, yeah!
That's how I get to the castle before dark.
At the speedo sound. Got places to go.
Anyone who gets that joke, good on you.
Good on you.
Bill, are you quietly saying?
No!
No?
Is it going on the title card?
Oh.
Hey, Bill. Do you trust me?
What?
Will we escape from the
Trust
city?
you. Follow me.
Set me free.
Bill, what do you think of?
I think probably one of the best isolation games is what I go to first is Metroid.
Metroid.
I think the original Metroid and
I hope that doesn't pick up, but I hope it does at the same time.
But yeah, I think the original and Super Metroid actually Prime does a really good job too of giving this sense of isolation.
A prime example.
No, that doesn't fit.
Well, thanks.
Yeah, and it's just the you're kind of just on this planet that has no really advanced life. It's all just these kind of animal creatures.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think except for Other M, which is terrible, and we don't talk about it.
The thing that's cool about the Metroid games is that it's kind of it's isolation, but it's also an explorer game. It's a fun kind of game where you get to explore a world, and that's been happening a lot more, I think, with a lot of indie titles. I'm thinking of like Antichamber or like Mirror Moon or Dear Esther. Dear.
One of your favorite games, Ken.
What
Cave
is
Story.
my Cave Story? Yes, Cave Story is my favorite game.
Yeah, I saw it after however many times you've beaten that you were playing it earlier today, or
There
was
might
it
be a recording of me playing it, because you can set your clock to Halloween and all of the characters are wearing fun costumes, and it's
That's cool.
It's adorable. I love it. And it does that for Christmas too, so I don't know. Maybe
Oh,
I'll
really?
Yeah. It's really not a stream this sort of game, but I don't know. I'm probably still gonna do it anyway. I don't care.
I agree with you, Bill, on Metroid. And if you wanted to kind of invoke the horror trope there too, I mean, there's a reason they call it Metroidvanias. I mean, Castlevania, the later ones are really similar, and they have that horror feel to them as well.
Mm-hmm.
And talking about the protagonist being isolated, man, I think about Symphony of the Night, the opening of that, where you're Alucard and you're just kicking ass everywhere, and then death just comes and is like, "Oh, you have all this sweet equipment? No, I'm sorry, dude." And then you're just pathetic and alone and scared. Isolated!
Just like every other Dracula who's out there. Being a vampire is suffering, and that's a lesson we all should learn. But a good friend of a Dracula is the moon, so Mr. Moonjump, what do you think of this?
I think coworkers or friends. Never mind. Go ahead.
They're business partners.
I actually go back to one of my favorite games, which is that it's not really a horror game, but it does have this very dark tone to it, and that's Shadow of the Colossus.
That's such a good. That's a good.
Yeah, it's one of those, it's a buddy cop film with you and your horse.
You and Argo.
What an interesting way to view that game.
Aggro.
and you've got to take down these giant, kind of incomprehensible monsters by stabbing them.
Could be said of all religions. It's it goes with a Metroid almost, kind of just exploring like this big ass sort of territory, not really knowing what's around the next turn. Like there's not that much backtracking, but I mean it is a big sense of isolation, and you feel so dwarfed. Not just by like the monsters that you're fighting, but by
it's that you really the world makes you feel. I mean, if you think about it, really the only kind of other wildlife you run into, like besides you and your horse, are the colossi,
geckos,
and lizards and hawks.
The geckos that you use to increase your health, which I actually did not know the first time I played through the game.
Ooh.
Hey,
I know.
Yeah.
The first time you press the button and he just goes,
and then
he stares into the camera.
And then really the only other one you run into before the end is the owl.
Ooh.
Mr. Owl.
He will not tell you that. He will not answer that question.
The creator of that game described it in one word with cruelty for the theme of that game, which I thought was cool and deep.
Yeah.
I love that game. Go play it.
Buy it.
Buy 12 copies.
At your local.
Play it 12 times.
Gramazon.com.
Gramazon.
Find a guy named Graham. He'll sell it to you for money.
Oh. I thought it was Grandma's on.
Grandma's on?
Yeah, grandmazon.com.
She'll make you cookies and sell you a game. Grandmazone.com. First ask... Well, you don't have to ask your mom because your grandma is your mom's mom, so she dwarfs her in how much permission that she can dole out.
Like a colossus.
Yes, like the mighty colossus. And a cranberry. You got an example for me?
I do.
What's it?
It's the one everyone knows.
Say it.
Scooby-Doo. Literally every episode.
Yeah. Let's
someone
split up gang.
Like zooming in on Freddy's face as he fucking.
You know what? That's the title.
Split up gang.
Period after each word. Okay, go on.
Okay, yeah, that's it.
That's it.
It's where it's the stereotype of let's split the group up, which is the worst idea ever.
It is.
Let's intentionally make ourselves weaker and more viable to be murdered.
Let's move the plot along in the story by creating a situation of me alone with Dacne.
Dacne?
Yes, like Jack and Dacne.
She is
proactive.
Some proacne.
Is it proactive? It's to help with that Dacne.
It's to help with the Dacne problem that she has. Good.
What? Is that what? Okay, I can't deal. Move on.
That's pretty good.
There's my one.
That's one thing. I don't know why.
No, keep going.
Okay.
I know why.
It does not?
Doze.
Doze
Don't
not.
doze off.
All right, I won't. That was good. You did it well.
Dozer.
But who do you guys think does isolation well? The mighty Dozer from Brosbusters? They bust the bros. They can't.
He's the Dozerian.
Yes, the Dozerian. Conan the Dozerian. Just sleeping everywhere all the time. Dozing
Punching
off.
camels.
Punching a crummel. Punching caramel. Or caramel, however you say it. Delicious. Like a macchiato. But look, let's put this podcast on the espresso. On Espress. You know what? I needed that was easy. Todd's not here. I'll give it to myself. That was easy.
It's remarkably close.
I try. Thank you. It doesn't even matter, but I do try.
Oh, did you have to go to Dolphin College for that one?
I went to a very specific bottlenecked academy to try and learn the exact reasons. I went to school with a porpoise, damn it.
Freshwater only.
I stole that good. I stole it. And he's not here. I'm sorry, Todd.
From Goofus and Gallant? Where the hell did you steal that joke from?
I went to Echo's school of Don't Ask Me Where I Got My Diploma. Mr. Moon.
Is that your example? Is it Echo the Dolphin?
Echo the Dolphin,
Because that is
like a dolphin in a big wide ocean.
Man.
What an isolated
Exactly.
game.
Yeah, and occasionally you have to, like, I don't know, break through, like, rock enclosures and stuff.
You know what? I said we only get one example each, and I guess that's my example, which is unfortunate.
I'm sorry, that was your one.
That's okay. I'll get it back in my final thoughts, I guess.
You can do 2 if you want.
No, I can't, because then you'll have to do 2, and I won't allow it. This is getting cut anyway. So, Mr. Moonjump.
I go with one of my favorite examples of this trope, which would be the Silent Hill series in general.
Yes,
but specifically Silent Hill 2.
Because
Echo 2.
Because as James Sullivan, you start off as you're not always isolated in the game, maybe.
Yeah.
And that winds up being one of the very interesting things, is because it is a world full of, kind of the bleed over between madness and not.
Yeah.
It is a very isolating experience, and you can't tell exactly, where those lines are blurred. I mean, that's in many ways kind of the key portion of it is, that's what started the fan theories of Silent Hill being basically a place that is your own purgatory. It is you alone with your thoughts, and they're not good. And I love, I think one of the best things for it was also one of the funny things with the game, is the reason they actually had the fog was because the PlayStation 2 actually couldn't handle the render distances for doing the town in full while keeping a decent frame rate, so they put the fog in.
Mm-hmm.
But they actually really liked the fog as a mechanic because basically it did keep you always in a very small bubble. If things got close, they were usually at that point almost too close for you to really be able to avoid. So, it does create a very good panic moment and things when dealing with the otherworldly creatures in it. And yeah, it is very interesting to kind of see how much narrative can actually come out of one person by himself. Oh,
well, I mean, I was just gonna quickly comment on, the difference between isolation and I don't know, because in Silent Hill 2, I think, as opposed to a game like Metroid where you start alone and you never have any, supposition that, well, I'm going to meet friends and this is going to be, some sort of, we're going to have a team or anything. But Silent Hill, there are so many characters during the game where you meet them and then things happen and you find yourself isolated again. I mean, Maria, you kind of depend upon her to be your solace, and then over and over again you're separated from her, split up from her. She's killed and resurrected. I mean, Angela, you run into her several times throughout the game. She's the suicidal young girl. Mm-hmm. And the last time you see her, I mean, you're physically separated from her by a wall of flame, and you have no choice as the player in that situation but to just walk away. I mean, you could stand there and look at her for as long as you want, but you will never reach her. And it's just this, I mean, more than it is the most isolated I've ever felt in a game is Silent Hill 2. I think that's an excellent example.
Yeah, it really is one of those, it does play with, it does play with the idea of, what is a man past a miserable pile of secrets? Which, hey, Castlevania, but
yes,
that was on everybody. Everybody was ready to yell it if he didn't. Is that correct? Just checking.
It's good.
No, yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, and then the ones who do stick with you, like Eddie, well, you eventually have to beat them to death anyway because they're insane. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, everybody.
Yeah, and it does bring up, how much of it is, them being conscious in your realm, or you being because even the characters themselves, none of them really seem to be uncomfortable with the fact that they are alone. either.
Yeah, I think the only one who sort of does is Laura, and coincidentally, she's also the only one who seems to have a grip on reality. Because when James starts mentioning like the monster, she's like, "What are you talking? I don't see any." That's the little kid, if you don't remember. Like, yeah, I don't know. And so she's the only one who's even conscious of isolation because everybody else is already in their own personal hell.
Yeah,
they're isolated mentally.
Yeah.
What's cool about Silent Hill 2 is I don't know anything about the Silent Hill games. I have not played them, but I know about Silent Hill 2. It has quite the reputation to it. Those games are very psychological. I've read into the plot a lot. I know Anna has watched a lot of Let's Plays for them and gotten very into the lore of the universe. I think we've talked about our inability to play scary games before on the podcast, but we've gotten very into the world. This is like kind of a tangent, but still kind of on topic. Have you guys seen the picture where it's you can only choose one road, and one road goes to Silent Hill, and the other road goes to Raccoon City?
Raccoon City.
And sometimes there's a third one where it says the way back is to Hinamizawa, which is, when they cry. Higurashi. Yes. But we won't go into that right now. But it's funny, because I remember that, and it's just like choose the lesser of two evils, and it always sparks like a debate of like which is worse, like a bunch of terrible zombies or having to deal with with yourself.
Yeah, having to literally face your demons. It's and that's a very good question. I personally would go with Raccoon City because I get to shoot more stuff.
Oh my god! I mean, Silent Hill. Even if you get out, like Harry from Silent Hill 1, the town still follows you. Yeah, I mean, like, you're never out of Silent Hill.
And someone described it really interestingly, I think, in the response to this particular scenario, which is like, look, Silent Hill will find a way to fuck with you. It doesn't matter if you're secure or not. It's like, you love your mom, a little scared of spiders? Well, here's a half-naked version of your mom on a spider. Like, it's gonna mess with you.
Spider Mom.
It's your Spider Mom. It's terrible. Arachno Mom. Gosh, what?
She packed 8 lunches.
She packed 8 lunches, and I can only eat one. Aww.
There's only 7 days in the week.
Oh, first world problem. First
world problem? 8th world spiders.
8th world spiders.
I'm not gonna lie, the third world can have our first world problems if they want. You can have 8-legged spider mom that chases you with some weird Oedipal issues or something, It's...
Yeah. And that's Silent Hill Shattered Memories, one of my least favorite. I feel like we've talked about this before. One of my least favorite Silent Hills, but the cool part was that it gave you that psychological test where, it found out what you're scared of and modeled the world after that.
Yeah. With the world's worst psychologist.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Color this picture. All right.
You're a bastard. Did you know that?
You're an idiot.
You're an idiot.
You're clearly one of them nerds in high school, all sexless, and it's like, how, dude? Like, I know I pay you to tell me this, but
did he actually say that shit to you, man?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Depending on which path you took, he basically just makes fun of you for being a nerd.
The more like depraved your choices, he gets like all up in you.
Jeez,
what a dick!
Kind of treats you like an asshole.
Chris, do you want to get in the car and drive to this dude's house?
I'll fist fight him in the street. Right, he at least doesn't have a pyramid head.
Hold on, I'll grab the Arby's. I'll be right there. Okay. You gotta have some roast beef for the stakeout. Okay.
Sorry, point of reference. James Sunderland, his last name even means broken, like sundered land. So everybody's living in their own separate reality. I just thought that was an interesting point. Or in a sun-dried tomato.
Well, see, that's one thing that they've never confirmed with the Silent Hill series is whether... Because there is some inclination that the events that occur...
yes, there is.
Right, but there is some inclination that what actually occurs in the town is real.
Oh boy.
Okay.
It's...
Well, if we're gonna get into
I know. We've spent a lot of time talking about Silent Hill 2. It's a great example, don't get me wrong. But we gotta move on. We
can talk forever about Silent Hill. Yes.
How you doing?
I'm doing fine.
Because you're okay. You checking in?
Yes.
Okay. What do you got to say?
I wanted to talk about something a little bit different.
Okay.
Which is, a lot of times we think of being abandoned by the group or getting split up from the group as being like a really negative thing. But in some cases, when someone gets split up from the group, they actually end up having like a personal
A vision
journey.
quest.
Not a vision quest necessarily, but like some events happen where it's kind of an adventure on their own apart from the group. And because they're split up, they learn a lot from it, and it's kind of cool. I like that positive view of it. So when they come back to the group, from the group's perspective, nothing changed, but the individual, grew or learned something during their time apart.
Yeah.
That they wouldn't have otherwise been able to learn. There are a lot of different examples of it. For some reason, what came to my mind is an episode from Thundercats, the new series.
Yes, the 2011
one.
Mm-hmm.
It's called The Drifter.
Yes.
Where basically in the new Thundercats, Lionel's a fucking idiot. Like he's the arrogant
piece
hero.
of shit.
He is the stereotype arrogant hero. He's a piece of shit. He's like, I can do everything. The group's fucking stupid. And like he goes on this journey to get supplies, and he meets up with the swordsman who teaches him calm the fuck down, pretty much. And it takes him the whole episode to learn, and when he comes back, the group is like, haha, it took you a long time, and Lionel's like, yep, it sure did.
Well, because even though he's learning from a sort of mentor, it's not really so much like, the mentor doesn't
it's
really...
a personality change that he has to make in order to grow.
Mm-hmm.
The mentor just kind of helps him along, but Lionel himself makes the change.
Yeah, he does spend a lot of time by himself too, just kind of reflecting.
I just thought that was an interesting take. The fact that they split him up. They could have easily put the entire group in that episode like they do for most of any series or adventure. Right. But to split them up and then return him back to the group afterwards, I thought was a very cool way to advance the character and kind of have a big leap in personality and character growth.
Yeah.
It was better because he didn't have the help of the group.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah,
it's a good.
So I think that's an interesting view to take of being split up.
Well, and I think that's one of the things I think we mentioned this in a very early podcast about how one of the things that's a great use of it is the fact that you really do get to focus on a person or a character archetype by keeping them isolated. It really is a great way to flesh out a character, and it's used a lot for animation and things for just that reason. Yeah, no,
it's a good writing exercise. I think builds the character a little bit more if you need them to make a change later on in the story. It's just kind of nice to kind of let them build on that, separate them from the group, and
they can't fall back on the help that they what?
Huh? No, it just happened. Sometimes things happen. Chinua Achebe. Things fall apart. Read it in your local library.
What?
Sponsors are getting crazy this episode.
In a lot of ways,
yeah. We're government funded now, Bill. We're rolling in that Dodge.
That's amazing. In a lot of ways, it reminds me, kind of a throwback to our bottle episode. I mean, when a hero is alone and isolated, we tend to really focus on them and learn a lot about them, just like a bottle episode. A lot of similarities there.
Since you mentioned that, Sickard, does it make you think of anything else, or?
Well, oh boy, it does, but that would mean me saying two, so I'm not going to. But
the best then, or just good.
I think that I've never seen a piece of animation do an isolation episode or a whole isolation arc, in fact, better than Reboot, which is one of my favorite shows. So if you're not familiar with the Reboot, it was this kids show that ran for 3 seasons originally, and as time went on, the show got darker and darker. At the end of season 2, the main hero was blasted by the bad guy into the web, which is basically the abyss, and nobody knew if he was dead or alive. And so it fell to his little Enzo, who's his maybe 10-year-old. He's 0-1, and then during the course of the show he changes to 1-0, so he's 10 years old, I guess. And it's up to him to save their little village from the bad guys. And what happens is, God, it's hard to explain this without explaining exactly what happens in Reboot. Games, there's challenges they have to do, and if you lose a challenge, you die. But he finds a way where he loses a challenge, but instead of dying, he goes with the challenge away. These are games, and so he's sucked into the web, and he disappears. And during that time, he ages from a 10-year-old to a 20-something, and it entirely 100% changes the entire tone of the show. When he returns, he's kind of this gruff anti-hero, who's been basically in the abyss, in this place he didn't know where he was or what he was doing, and he's just been trying to find his home for the past like 15 years. And for a kids show, it is the most dark turn that a kids show has taken. I mean, it lightens up after that, but just to have this, this lighthearted, carefree, Enzo is definitely the heart of the show, and change him into this, somebody who's been scarred by time, and he's now, whereas he used to be very optimistic and very energetic and very excitable, he now kind of hates everything and everyone, and trusts no one. And I think it's a great example of, even if you don't see all those 15 years, what having a hero in isolation, if you really think about it, can do to their psyche, especially, when given an extended period of time. Yeah. Has anybody else watched Reboot?
Yes, and I love it.
Yes.
Oh,
Can
yeah.
I say?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
I think Reboot has done some of the most interesting, drawn out, and well done foreshadowing for Enzo, that particular character that Sage's been talking about.
BC and you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Oh my God,
long.
BC and you.
They spent so long building
Yeah.
up to the fact that, spoilers, skip 10 seconds ahead if you don't want to find out. Enzo loses an eye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they just build up to it for so long. They were planning it a really long time. And then it gets really messed up
Reboot
when
has
time-altered Enzo meets normal Enzo again.
The system refresh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
whatever
was
you like
weird.
to call it. It's
skip 10 more seconds ahead if you don't want to late season 3 spoilers. But yeah.
Alpha Numeric.
Mhm. It was really interesting because it was all set up with it was inside of a computer, and so like the Fong and
Ray Tracer.
hexadecimal /
Oh, Ray Tracer.
yeah, all that mouse. That
I
was
know
funny.
people say this. Only time I think it applies, a show ahead of its time.
Yeah.
It came out
Yeah,
before
oh my
Toy
gosh,
Story. That's how old it is.
Yeah,
Yes.
really?
Yeah.
Good Lord.
Mhm.
Wow, I didn't even think
It's a
about
really
that.
good setup for that time jump. Like they really did a good setup.
Yeah, Mainframe used to be a really good animation company.
And then they started making Barbie movies.
It's so sad because fans have been trying to resurrect Reboot for
They had a comic.
10 years now. Yeah, did the comic ever get
I have no
finished?
idea.
I think they had a couple pages done and they posted them online, and then I don't know. And then just last year they were like, "Well, we're thinking about making more," and then I haven't heard anything.
There was
so-
supposed to be
I
a
don't
movie, and then that didn't happen.
Yeah.
And
Well, yeah, there were 2 movies that were technically season 4, but you're right, there should have been a bigger movie.
oh, season 4.
Yeah.
You didn't like season 4?
In particular, My Two Bobs.
Oh,
But this is
My
turning
Two
into
Bobs
Reboot,
is so
so
much better than
You
Damon
and I can talk
Rising.
about Reboot
Yes, okay.
anytime.
Yeah, this is
this is a podcast.
We'll do a
You
reboot
can
cast.
cut that all out.
No.
Let's do Reboot / Silent Hill 2 cast. It's only
Okay.
Anna and Chris that are invited.
Violet 2, Electric Boob.
Electric Bobs.
Electric Bobs.
Electric
Bubble Bobbles.
Oh.
Bill.
How's it going?
Hey, how's it going, man? How you doing?
Just hanging out.
Yeah, just hanging out.
Just
You gonna let it get to you? You just gonna creep?
down on the Pumpkin Hill.
You got to find your lost piece. You know that it's here?
Feel
You
it
sense it
around
in your feet? Great Emerald's power allow you to feel what you
Alright,
think. Yes.
I don't know. I was going back and forth between, but I think my example of who does well would be Portal.
Portal is great, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
goodness,
think
yeah.
Portal 2 does an even better job with just the isolation feeling, because
Mhm.
everybody, like with Portal 1, they got comfortable with aperture science, like the nice clean white testing rooms.
Yeah.
So when you get, and I guess this is kind of a spoiler, but not really, but when you fall back down into like old aperture science where everything's decayed and falling apart, you have like an extra dose of isolation from the world you're comfortable with and know so well already.
Mhm.
It's a very good game series. I like it.
Well, and the one thing I was going to mention with Portal 2 that I really like in terms of the sense of isolation in it versus the original Portal is, in Portal, like, yeah, you're going through a lab and you feel like a subject and thing. Yeah, well, because you are. But the one thing that Portal 2 brings in is you almost do feel kind of this separation from everyone even more keenly, because you do get to kind of sit in people's memories. Like, there was obviously a goal with all the things they were doing. It wasn't just wacky science, you know? Like, the addition of some of the extra characters and things in Portal 2 really does almost make you feel more lonely just from the little bit of contact you get with people.
But, you know, a lot of that, I mean, because for a large portion of the game, you do have either Wheatley or GLaDOS kind of hanging out with you. Yeah. But I do feel, you know, you're right. Hanging out in people's memories, what a great way to put it. It's totally intensely lonely.
And with GLaDOS, it's not like she's not really there to help you. You're being kind of toyed with, and even, it's been long enough. Even with Wheatley a little bit, he's, you know, not necessarily, doesn't have your best interests, maybe, all the time. So, I mean, you can feel kind of isolated that no one's really, I guess, with Wheatley more in the afterthought, that no one's really on your side in that sense, because you're always kind of going up against an opposition almost. And I guess there's, even if you're with someone, there's a sense of isolation with that. If, like, you know, you've got to... Well,
you know what they say. Two can be as bad as one.
It's the loneliest number since number one. That's good. Good. Good job, Bill. I liked it. Utropeia seal of approval. Okay, we've covered a lot of stuff. I guess this is a good point. Any final thoughts on the isolation? Any ones that you guys wanted to touch on that you weren't able to? Anything that you'd like to bring up for your final thoughts on doing an isolated protagonist, just in general?
For good or bad?
No, this is just a final thought, man. Just anything else that you wanted to say. It doesn't have to be good. It doesn't have to be bad. have we done bad yet? We haven't done bad yet.
Bad.
Fuck, and we're already at an hour.
It's gonna be a long one.
Dang it! I'm all right.
One by one. You was bad. You was bad.
Do was bad. Was so bad. Yeah, go.
Me
forward.
start. Okay. The video games. So in role-playing games, there's often a sequence where it isolates one character for you, and you're forced to play through a certain part of the game with just that character, because, like a bottle episode or like an isolation thing, we're trying to find out more about this character, where they came from, who they are. But the thing about video games, as opposed to TV or movies or something like that, is that in video games, it's an interactive medium, and so it doesn't work out, because that character is going to be the character that you've leveled the least. And you will not give a shit about their story, and you'll get your ass beat over and over again because you didn't level them, because you didn't like them, and now you're forced to play through this section. What I'm thinking of specifically, Breath of Fire 2, Super Nintendo RPG.
Yeah.
There's a section with, you get this monkey man called Sten, and he's just this, like, silly little thief character, and he's kind of fun, but by the time you get him, soon you have characters that are way better than him. And you don't really think much of him, and then eventually it gets to a point in the story where, oh my gosh, he's actually more than just this silly thief. He's this, this person who's important to this kingdom. And so all the other party members leave, and you have to play as Sten. And there's this boss. I just remember as a kid just getting beaten over and over because I didn't level Sten enough, and there's not enough opportunity to level him easily within that dungeon. And it's a pain because the medium is so different from a TV show. In a TV show, you don't have to worry about, we can worry about strife, but, you don't have to worry about leveling appropriately. Right. And in role-playing games, that's difficult when you isolate one person.
I just wanted to play Sora. Why did it have to be Roxas?
Meanwhile, in Kingdom Hearts 2.
When you walk
I was... when I was researching this, I played like half of Kingdom Hearts 1. I'm not a big fan of the series, but they kept talking about like, yeah, this happens in Kingdom Hearts where you'll be going through and then suddenly there'll be just a random force field and Goofy and Donald can't reach you for no real reason and you have to fight a battle with Sora. And I was like, that's super dumb. I don't know, but yeah, I don't like that. It's dumb.
What makes you do that?
Truth.
That's the truth.
That's the truth.
And also, I wrote down the words Mario is missing, but I did not expound for myself. That's all I wrote.
That's fine. Take your time.
It wasn't really
for whatever
it was an actual thing.
Mario's missing?
Yeah.
Thank you for
No
timing
problem.
that for me. Yeah, I don't know. I just wrote. I mean, because it's Luigi isolated, but I don't even know where I was going with it. I just take notes, and none of them mean anything.
Isolation. There's no good way to portmanteau that. Anna.
Yes.
How you doing? Making some faces.
Yes. I don't have a specific example,
Okay.
but oft in action or horror movies,
Yes.
there's the asshole who says, "Man, fuck this shit. I'm gonna go on my own because y'all are dumb,"
Yeah.
and then they die. Characters who leave the group or make a bad decision to isolate themselves at a really inopportune time
Yeah.
end up dying, or something bad happens to them, or they screw over the group.
The prissy princess who can't take it, like
Yes.
what's going on and no one's paying attention to them.
It's really annoying.
Did you get hit? Doing okay?
I will write a letter of apology. I'm sorry for interrupting. Solo-Luigi. Solo-Luigi.
You know what? That's a good one.
You're done.
That's a
Okay,
hashtag.
go ahead. Okay. Sorry, continue, Hannah.
Honestly, that was it.
Sometimes I just can't. Okay.
Next.
Next.
We gotta move. We're at an hour,
Yeah.
son.
The one I would bring up that I felt like really failed at doing your isolated protagonist was Gone Home.
On home.
Because I bought it at the recommendations
Go home,
of a
then.
lot of people. But the problem with Gone Home is it runs into part of it's just bad game design. Is the game can be beaten in 45 seconds.
Can I state?
If
I have
you
not
know where
played
you're going,
Gone
yes.
Home, but I want to,
Yeah,
and I own it.
and the
3 seconds.
yeah, and
Well,
it's
oh man. Now we're talking about what's the point of a video game. Is the point of the video game to beat the video game?
well, and that it is a portion of it, but it's also one of those I really feel like they almost do their character a disservice by making a lot of the content optional.
That's I'll fight to the death on Gone Home because I love it. But when I forced my friend to play it, he found this loophole where he found a lot of the end game content before the beginning game content, and it made no sense to him. So you're right. Yeah, a lot of it is weird.
Yeah,
or optional.
it's one of those. It's one of those. Was it a good idea, and is there some interesting stuff in it? Yes, but it does run into its own flaws, and that's part of its problem. There's some very promising stuff in it. And I'm kind of curious to see what is it, Freehold or whoever did their games. I forget whoever did Gone Home. They had some interesting potential, but it's but it is a very rough game in general. But it was clever. But yeah, it's just one of those in terms of they isolate you as a protagonist, and it's almost that they because they don't structure any direction, even subtly so.
The theming.
It does, yeah.
Yes.
It does eventually, it does lead you to a point where you can miss a great deal of stuff. When I played through it, I missed a great deal of stuff because I'm one of those, explore every option type person when I play games, and so I bypassed a great portion of content. Yeah, and it does very much kind of cheapen the experience.
Yeah, they could have taken a lot of cues. Valve is so good at that. At not making you feel like you're being railroaded, but very subtly pointing you like, hey, this is the right way to go. Yeah, so you're right.
Yeah, good example. Yeah, Bill, MrYu Video.
I don't think I have anything offhand.
Not a bad enough dude.
No, I'm not bad enough dude to save the president.
No, you can save the president. It's just,
No,
do what you want,
bad
man. I did Hellraiser, and the 8th one. There's 9 of them. Don't ask me how I know. Hellraiser Hellworld. It's well, 1, the premise is dumb, but 2, it's just, and I'm going to make this a little bit more general. It's when there's a situation where a protagonist is isolated and all logic points to this is a bad decision. When you're in this place where, everything points to this person is trying to kill you. This is stupid. Why would you go in there? In Hellraiser Hellworld, it's this party being hosted by they don't know it at the time, but it's their friend's dad, and their friend committed suicide, and the dad blames all of them for, this person getting killed. And it's not even like the real world. They're in like virtual reality, and this guy is like posing as a bunch of different people. And it's, oh my gosh, it is just the loosest premise that I don't even know if I'm able to follow. It's like they're in like a virtual reality psycho-hallucinogenic drugged-induced state, and this person is like messing with them. So they're each technically isolated, but they're all sharing the same consciousness. It's just a very loose premise. And also the dad pretends to be a nun and have relations with one of the kids in their psychedelic dream, which is messed up. Yeah, I know, dude. I know.
Yeah, wow. I mean, I knew the Hellraiser series was weird, but that's just odd.
It's like there's this masquerade party. No one really knows anyone or like what's going on. It's like there's a bunch of torture devices everywhere. People are getting like pulled all over the house and getting murdered in these places where it's like, no, you really shouldn't be in there. Like this dude just directly referenced like maybe murdering you a little bit. Like, how are you still cool with like what's going on in this situation? It's I think it's just that in general, where it's like you set up the premise to be so ridiculous that you can't necessarily follow along with why any rational person or even slightly irrational person wouldn't be able to pick up on the simple hints of like, this is a bad idea. This is a directly bad idea to go into the abandoned hospital. How are you this stupid? But yeah, that's my bad example. That's my bad enough dude to save the president, I guess. But look, it's executive. So to execute our next section. Okay, that's good. I worked out that bit. That's good. Refine that bit. Refine that bit.
Parmesan cheese.
Parmesan cheese, the scariest spice of all, because you don't know it's a spice. It's a hashtag, maybe. I don't know. It's really long. Okay, so now we'll get into our final thoughts. Our final thoughts on this trope. Anna, it feels like I have not given you a fair chance.
I think you've been doing fine.
Oh, well, good. Confidence restored.
Final thoughts. I mean, we've already talked about a lot of it.
Yeah.
There's so many examples of it. There's a lot of different situations. It's really broad. It can be good or bad. There's a lot of different reasons for it. I tend to enjoy, I say tentatively,
Yes.
Plot lines where someone's isolated from a group.
Yes.
Because there's a lot of like really strong feelings. I think everyone can identify with that feeling of being alone or being afraid. Things get more scary when you don't have people there to support you. So it's really, really common to use to just get like that extra oomph, fear, or just to drive something. So props.
And it works with Saker's earlier example of having a character who's isolated as a kid and having friends maybe come to help them, because it can be very empowering to like have support or something like that too. Power of friendship.
End of season 1 of Sailor Moon, man. They all died, and then she had to fight Queen Beryl alone, and then they all came
Power
back.
the moon.
That's right.
How it worked. Well, you fight evil by moonlight.
And you win love by not moonlight.
That's why Gaia threw out those magic rings. It's lonely, being Mother Earth.
Earth is the loneliest number that you'll ever
In a
do.
technological fortress of paradise.
But you get to be Whoopi Goldberg, so that's pretty sweet.
Was
True.
it Whoopi Goldberg?
Yeah. No, what? Hold up. In Captain Planet, wasn't it Whoopi
I
Goldberg?
don't know. It makes sense. But I did not know.
Captain
We got a fact check.
Captain Planet.
All right, this is going to be the longest episode. Yep, voiced by Whoopi Goldberg in 1990 to 1983, Margot Kidder in
All right.
92 95. Sorry.
Robble. Whoopi
Extending the
Goldbergles
episode.
again. Whoopi Goldbergler. She just comes on the Hollywood Squares and steals it.
And just robble.
My man.
Oh my god, I'm picturing her as one of the whammies from Press Your Luck for some reason.
That's another game show.
Whoopi.
Speaking of the moon, Any final
Yeah.
Moon thoughts?
I mean, in terms of genre, it's like I said, it really is a great point, especially for getting intimate with a character, of being able to explore the depth of a person, or even kind of being able to see what the world is like through their eyes. One of my favorite stories ever actually is, I don't know if you know this, C.S. Lewis actually did a series of science fiction novels. Did a space trilogy. And in it, his main character basically goes to Mars and Venus alone. And it's very interesting to see the perspective through his eyes alone. Like, there's very little dialogue interaction with anyone else throughout the books. But yeah, it is a very interesting way to see a very, like, he's your traditionally Britishly pessimistic professor, and so it's interesting to kind of see him adapt and how he positively or negatively views things. It's you don't just have to espouse upon the character, but also how that world looks through their eyes too. I don't know. It's a really good method for really being able to drill down a single point, because just like your character's isolated, your story is isolated to a single subject too.
It can work kind of like a bottle episode, basically.
Yeah.
I guess in some, I was just thinking to myself, in some cases, isolation episodes could technically be bottle episodes, but instead of like a group conflict, it's an internal conflict. In some cases, I would guess.
Yeah.
No, I would agree. Bill,
What's going on?
any final thoughts from William?
So I like, this is why I didn't do like a Who Does It Bad, because I can think of a bad example of it, but just or like a bad use of it, but not an example to go with it. But like the misunderstanding that leads to isolation, like the person overhears something out of context and they're like, "Oh, my friends hate me. I'm gonna go away forever now." And then they're isolated while the group is looking for them.
Yeah,
I hate that. I'm so sick of that in itself is a whole nother episode. The misunderstanding.
the misunderstood.
I hate it so much. Yeah, that's, other than that, I think everybody touched on everything really important.
Bill, do you remember in Shrek 1 when Fiona's talking to Donkey and saying that no one could love a monster like an ogre? And then Shrek just leaves? Like, is that what you're talking about when you talk about isolation of the hero?
I think you have just isolated a good portion of your cast members for no particular reason at all. So,
he wanted an example. I was just trying to provide an example.
See what you did, and I want you to know that we are swamped for time.
Oh. Hey, has anybody seen Ogredose at all? I'm just curious.
Oh god.
Hey
guys. Sorry. I was just on this whole long drawn out adventure. I kind of like misplaced where I was, and I missed you guys so much. I had to fight a Unitar.
Oh, what is that?
You know what that's like?
A Unitar?
A Unitar. It's like a Minotaur, only it's got a unicorn head.
Oh my gosh.
What
ice cream does that sell?
But I got this cool new power up out of it, and man, what an adventure! I really wish you guys could have been there for it.
I wish we could have too. That would have been.
That's
crazy. It sounds like you might have learned a little about yourself too.
Yeah, I did. Did I miss the final thoughts yet?
Actually, we're just wrapping it up for the final thoughts.
Can I bring up an example?
Oh yeah, sure, go for it.
Oh, well, I've been really waiting to do this. The Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
The very first episode of the Twilight Zone has nothing to do with like weird mystic stuff or anything. It's about an astronaut that goes crazy. And the twist of the episode, because it's Twilight Zone, is that he kind of like imagines himself going to like this whole city and stuff like that, and he's just you find out that he's been by himself, like in a simulator for like an extended amount of time, and he's just going crazy and kind of like getting lost in his own head. So it's a really cool episode, and like I said, it's the very first. So if you start there, you're just gonna end up watching probably like every episode of the Twilight Zone, because it is an amazing show.
You know, we didn't talk about like isolation in space for some reason. That goes like hand in hand too.
Yeah,
and so does Isolation and Madness.
This is true.
In general, is sometimes characters go off by themselves, and then they just go really loopy because it's just them. And there's been, they've been trying to test that for years in real life with people. So I think it's kind of a closely related between the two of just isolation and madness. That word was tough for a moment.
It was.
I was, because I'm so
exhausted
and a little crazy right now.
I can tell. Is that blood on your? Is that blood on your shoulder?
Oh my God! Is that blood on my shoulder?
No, hold on. Oh no, it's gelato. It's gelato.
Oh,
that's
gelato.
The ice cream that the Unitar sells. All right. We did it.
It's made from milk from the Moonanite.
It's canon.
Wow, I'm really glad this all connected.
It did.
In the end.
It did. Well, with that, I guess I could do my final thoughts. I could. Dare I? Dare I try? I will. Okay, so I guess the one movie that I wanted to talk about for my well section, but Echo the Dolphin just sort of bottle-nosed its way right in there, was, it's a callback. It's a back. It's Drag Me to... No, not Drag Me to Hell. It's You're Next, that movie. You're Next came out not too long ago. I want to say 2011. Really cool movie. You think that like the female protagonist who's like being introduced to this person's parents in a cabin in the woods is going to be like the virgin, like kind of helpless sort of character. But it turns out it's like, no, she takes a bunch of self-defense classes. She knows a bunch of survival techniques. Like she's a total badass. It's like these murderers are coming in and taking people out. And the one like character that you think is going to be like alone in the middle of the forest, like running for her life, half naked and scared, is actually just like taking dudes out with like a fucking piece of broken glass and a shotgun. I love it when you can just turn it completely on its head. I think that's absolutely amazing. And I guess, I would, this is fairly cliche, but I'd like to see a strong female character. Wouldn't that be nice? Wouldn't that be just dandy, Dr. Dandy?
Hey, next week, Bayonetta 2.
Yeah. And
what?
Buy it for the PS Swan on the Dolby Digital Surround Bird.
Or, the Dolphin 2.
Or the two dolphins. That's two dolphins strapped together.
Nice call, my Moonjump.
It's good.
You're right.
Would that be Echo?
God. I give that a Ben 10 out of 10 for that joke.
Thank you.
Thank you. I love you too, Phil. Okay. That is technically the end of this episode. Stick around because I'm going to do our next section. It's a new section. It's part of the Utropeia podcast kit. We're going to do some short stories composed of all of the previous 4 tropes that we've talked about over the week. And then we'll go right back into generals after this. Of course. So you know what? Just in case this runs a little bit long, I'm going to do a quick sign out and then we'll come right back in. This is Ken, aka Pumpkin. I'm also giving my regards from Anna Cranberry because it's so sleepy. It's so sleepy being her. She's going to hate me for doing that at the end of this episode. But also signing off. Glad to have you back, Todd Ogredose.
Oh, it's so good to see everyone again.
You've changed.
You have. You got some mad power-ups and a new power that we don't quite understand. It's canon. Also, Saker, aka Dimmsdale.
Yay, this thing's fun. Happy
spook. Thanks. Happy spooky thanks.
Happy spooky thanks.
And Chris, Moonjump.
I got nothing.
Good.
The moon is very lonely.
The moon is the loneliest moon that you'll ever moon.
I don't know.
It's
I
the
was
moon,
pretty
it's the
lonely.
moon. Yeah, there's a lonely island out there too.
That is also
You
true.
can buy Andy Samberg on the iTunes Kindle 3 player. And of course, Bill, MrYu video.
See you later.
Trope, you found what you're looking for. And if you don't hear my story, then we'll talk geeko next weeko. Bye.
Bye, everyone.